Welcome back to Keen on Australia. We're here for another episode, and today we're going to learn what I do. A lot of you have reached out to me and asked what I actually do and how I help people move. Well, obviously we've got our free podcast, we've got our free ebooks, all that information we put out there to help people move. Why do we do that? Because I found when I moved there was a bit of a struggle. There was a lack of information, there was some gaps for filling it in, and I figured the easiest way to put it out there for a lot of it was to recreate it and make it myself, and that's how we have the podcast. But I also have a full-time job in a business helping people buy and rent property. So I'm a buyer's agent. That's what I do for fun and what I do because I really enjoy my job. The reason I started doing it was when I first moved, I knew a lot about property. I'd been in real estate nearly 20 years, and I still found it a bit hard to rent property and to buy the first property we bought here in Australia. So we opened our company to help others do that and close the gap and speed up the time process that they can move to Australia and buy their new property. But the easiest way to show everyone what I do and how it works was I was recently on a show, Interest Rates with Mates. Their podcast is obviously all about getting mortgages and things like that, and they wanted me to talk to their clients about how we help buy property. So they gave me permission to use their show, and this is what it was.
Mr. Darren.
Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. So we've got Darren from Keen on Property. You must be pretty keen on property.
I love property.
Do you get that a lot?
I do. I've always got that, and with everything in life, obviously, it comes up, but it's sort of fitted for a name because we love property, and that's what I do.
I think it's a great name. It's good playing words.
Thanks.
Buyer's agent.
Yep.
Tell me more what a buyer's agent does.
So most people understand what a real estate agent does. You hire them, you pay them, they look after you to sell your home. Mm-hmm. Think of the complete other side of the fence. So I work for a buyer. They pay me, they engage me to find a property for them, and I do everything in their best interest to find the property, buy the property, negotiate for the property, and get it to them. I'm solely working for them. We're not restricted to the properties we list. We're restricted to buying any property in the market in Australia. So we can literally go to someone's door and knock on the door and say, hey, do you want to sell your house? Private sale. Mm-hmm. We can find off-market property that might be listed with an agent, or it's been through and done and something else has happened. Or we can deal with stuff that's on the market and negotiate on their behalf and get them the right deal for the right property.
I guess it's the beauty of a buyer's agent is that if you take a typical Saturday, you've got open homes at 11 o'clock, 11:30,
yep.
12 o'clock, 12:30. Like if you're actively looking, that's quite hard to, move around and get to all of those. But then you've got different suburbs as well.
Yep.
So that's when, they might go to one suburb and then, you're acting on their behalf to go find one in another suburb.
Definitely we can be anywhere. And the other one is this is what I do full time.
Yeah.
So it's not uncommon for me to hear of a deal that's fallen over. Mm-hmm. Hey, this fell over. When can you look at it? I'm getting the car now. Cool, come look. Straight there.
So good. We
can put an offer straight in. We can save a deal for the seller. We look really good, but we get a great deal for us because we're available there. We're not saying, hey, I'll turn up on said day. We'll rock straight in and get it done.
I was just about to say, it's not only for local clients, it's for interstate clients. And you specialise in, and we were talking off air, international.
Yeah, so for us, I do a lot of relocation clients and some international investment. That's a huge one for them because obviously new market, new life, a lot of stress, everything else going on. Yep. So we pick up the tab and do everything for them. And we can do that whether it's interstate or inter-country. We do a lot of people out of the UK, New Zealand, places like that, relocating, especially to southeast Queensland at the moment.
You almost become like a bit of an advocate because more than likely they're buying property for the first time.
Yep.
So you're teaching them about the property purchase journey in Australia.
And you've come up with the right word. I actually prefer to call myself a buyer's advocate rather than a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
An agent has something to sell. I don't. I can buy any property. If I don't like a property, we just move on and buy another one. I don't have to sell the stock I have. I find the stock that fits the client.
Yeah. Tell me your background. How did you get into being a buyer's advocate?
Okay. I grew up with property. My parents were property investors and stuff, which in turn sort of flew onto me. Okay. I bought my first investment property with my now wife partner back at the time when we were about 18, 19. Then we bought a few more and then we did some building and some other flips and bits and pieces. So I've always been in the property space. I sort of worked in a sales background as well. Always wanted to work in real estate, but just didn't quite know where. And then we're in New Zealand at the time. So I was born in Melbourne, then grew up in New Zealand. We were over there when COVID happened. It wasn't a pleasant experience having businesses and stuff over there. Got some time to reflect at home, realised when we were locked up that was the only time we didn't leave New Zealand over winter and all those sorts of things, and went, actually, you know what, this is really the time for us.
Yeah.
My wife and I had talked for 20 years about moving back to the Gold Coast, and that was where we wanted to live. it was enough that we went, you know what, let's liquidate everything, get on the plane and go. Spent some time here going, I'm not really sure what I want to do. I'd brought our own house off market, which again is just normal to me. I literally put a post up in a local group, some people replied, I went, knocked on the door, looked at the house and said, yeah, I'll buy that off you. To me, that was quite normal. A lot of people obviously find that a bit different, but for me, it wasn't a too bad a process. But then I realised the level of education I had around property and everything else, that's probably not normal for people.
No.
And then I had some other people that we'd met that become friends in Australia, like, how on earth did you even do that? And we started talking, and it sort of had a lot of people following me on social media and stuff about moving, because we were making videos about relocating. And it got bigger and bigger, and then I just had people continuously asking me, hey, can you help me do this? Can you help me with that? And then I realised I was really starting to get close to the line of, look, I need a licence to actually tell you what we're doing. And I was fortunate enough to be able to take some time off and go re-study and train and become fully qualified and open our company and do all the licensing. And then I realised there was a massive gap in the market for people that were relocating and needed the help of not just the relocation, but all the property advice, because different countries have quite different laws. It's very different.
We did a foreign income podcast, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and we did the stats, and, you know, from New Zealand, I think in the past couple of years, there's been like 180,000 Kiwis that have moved across. And that's just Kiwis.
Yep.
You've got UK, you've got South Africans, like people from all over the world are migrating here.
And big numbers, and most of them are coming from markets that are different to ours.
Correct.
Rules are different, laws are different, everything to do with even things like having insurance on a property when you've got it under contract. That's not normal in most of the world.
No, and 9 times out of 10, you need a mortgage.
Yep.
And that's where I step in.
Yep.
And again, in the foreign income, we break it down as to there is so much shading on foreign income. People don't understand why their banks are taking such a big hit income. And it's hard. It is hard for foreign people purchasing here.
And that's where, when I first started, I got some bad advice. I got some things told to me that weren't true, things you probably see all the time because some of them are from your side of the table. I had banks say, oh, look, you can't get a mortgage in Australia till you've got this much history and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, actually, if I go to the right broker, yeah, you can get mortgages pretty much as soon as you step off the plane, as long as you fit the right credentials and you have the right things.
100%.
Yeah. So I sort of went, hold on, there's a heap of education missing for people. What can I do that's going to keep me happy in my life, that I can set up a business that gives people all that education and then fights for them to buy property and basically sticks up for them? Because in Australia, most property transactions will have a real estate agent and nothing else. That to me is very heavy in bias to the seller. They have someone helping them, they have someone advising them, they have a team on their side. Most buyers do it on their own. So I wanted to fight for the buyer, and I wanted to work with them and have a procedure and a policy that we work the whole way through, start to finish, to get them set up, educated, ready to go, buy. And then today I'm up here because I was literally seeing one of my clients to do a final inspection with them before they pick up their keys and move into their new house.
So good.
So they're over the moon. It's great, and I get great satisfaction out of seeing people that have moved country. They thought, what on earth are we going to do? Tomorrow they're having a party because they're moving into their new house. That for me is way more than getting paid for doing it. It's such a great feeling.
I love giving as soon as the settlement email comes through, I'm on the phone within 30 seconds going, it's settled. And sometimes, I've said this before, I get more excited than the client.
Yeah, 100%.
I just love it. I just love it. Based in Gold Coast, so predominantly your area is southeast Queensland.
Yeah.
Give me your take on the last 6 to 12 months.
So southeast Queensland, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on whereabouts you're sitting, has still had huge amounts of net migration and very poor levels of new property coming on. End result, there's a shortage.
Yeah.
That shortage, even though we've had some higher interest rates lately for the current time, not high for long term, but for current, and a bit of cost of living issues, property's still rising quite aggressively here in southeast Queensland. Reason being, we don't have enough of it. A lot of my clients I see and other clients moving from overseas, they are coming quite cashed up. If they've got to pay a little bit more than what the market's saying for a house, they're not caring, and they're pouring that money into southeast Queensland.
People are making it work as well. Like I've talked with clients, 6 to 12 months ago, and, they're like, what if we get a second job? And I'm like, yeah, you need a bit of history to be able to do that. But they've gone and got a second job to be able to utilise that income. So people are making it work.
Yep.
We've had government incentives go from 500 to 700 for stamp duty. That's really helped first-home buyers. $30,000 grant that was raised from 15. That's helped a lot of people as well. So the government's tried.
Yep.
But I think this, as you said, it's still lagging a little bit.
It's lagging, and I've seen these incentives before. They're great right now, and if anyone's out there thinking about jumping on a house now in that incentive bracket, jump straight into the broker and get advice to get a loan and get it done, because everywhere I've seen this done, property that was 500 will become 700.
Yeah.
Because of the incentive, it helps everyone get over the line, but unfortunately it puts a lot of pressure on that line and drags it up. So unfortunately, I can't crystal ball it, but I do believe that pressure is going to stay around
that was my next question.
Yep.
Can you crystal ball the next 6 to 12?
Look, hey, no one's got a perfect crystal ball, but we've got record migration still. People are still piling into southeast Queensland, whether it's interstate or intercountry.
Yep.
There's a lot of incentives being thrown out there to make people spend on property with some new grants and some help to get in and all those sorts of things. That puts pressure up.
And also on my side as well, we're predicting interest rate decreases as well, hopefully in the next 12 months. Money becomes cheaper to borrow. Yep. That allows people to offer more.
And unfortunately, I've seen it a lot over my life. If you get your clients an extra 50 grand, they're going to spend an extra 50 grand.
They're going to spend an extra 50.
If everything's sitting in a market locked at 800, because that's where the line sits for the predominant person to borrow money, and then all of a sudden we have a rate cut and everyone can borrow 850, within a month or two, that property's all going to jump to 850.
Yeah.
It's going to happen real fast. It's the match that we're waiting for to start it again.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's probably going to happen sometime this year. And if it does happen, it is going to accelerate it here again. Brisbane's holding the Olympics in 2032. There's a lot of capital spending going on between the Gold Coast, Sunny Coast and Brisbane City itself. While all that work's out there and everything's going on, everyone's feeling pretty comfortable. And if we get a rate drop, all of a sudden that comfort level is going to get pretty high.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to predict what's going to happen as we get closer to the Olympics, but from now till then, there's so much infrastructure spending and so much pro going on, unless they drastically cut the numbers migrating here.
Which they don't want to.
No, they don't want to. And the other one is, a lot of people don't understand Sunny Coast and Gold Coast are both classed as regional.
Yeah.
So people on regional visas can essentially move to Brisbane. They just can't live in Brisbane. But I drove up here from the Gold Coast today. It's not that hard to do. So we're seeing a lot of people ring up and go, hey, I've been told I can't live in a main centre. Where can I live? Or you can live half an hour either side of it. So again, that pressure is going to be there, and it's going to be there for the next few years. Number of building consents and number of developments happening, it's not a lot at the moment. So again, I don't personally see the main contributors changing it. The average person not being able to afford something at the moment, that could be a bit hard for them. But the people that have got the money and moving and all those sorts of things, everything's saying upward pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, when you first meet a client, obviously if they're international, if they're local, you're big on education.
Yep.
Do you sort of give them a breakdown as to, purchase price or do you ask them, hey, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so obviously I will give a lot of people a free consultation, but I won't give it till they've answered all the questions I send out in the questionnaire.
Cool.
Once they've given me those questions, I know roughly what they're trying to achieve and what they're doing, where they're from, all those sorts of things.
Yep.
Then we can sit down and make sure they've had the right education about if they can even buy, how they can buy, what sort of costs are going to be involved when they buy, making sure they actually have the correct team ready to go. So obviously they have a broker in their corner, they have a building and pest, they have a lawyer, all those sorts of things. Anything they don't have, obviously we have great connections to help them. So we make sure that they have everything ready with a roadmap to go to a purchase, that the day we actually go look at a property for them, if they like it, love it, whatever, we can do it right there on the spot.
Yeah.
If they're not educated and not ready to go, once we do find the right property, we find it's really hard for them to understand what we got to do now. And if we can't look at everything beforehand, it's really hard for them to make decisions when they need to. And this market, while it's slowed down a little bit in this horrible winter weather we've got at the moment, it's still pretty hot and fast, yeah. Like the rainy days like today are great times to buy. Obviously, not as many people go to open homes on a miserable day and all those sorts of things. But we're still seeing big numbers of transactions happening, and it's still pretty aggressive market that stuff happens pretty quickly. So people have to be ready. The only way they can be ready is be educated.
Yeah, and that's what we try and do, and that's why we're big advocates for pre-approvals.
Yep.
And most brokers, banks don't do them, but we see the value in them, and that's giving the comfort client as to actually what they can physically go up to.
Yep.
Because as soon as you get that fully assessed pre-approval letter, it sort of changes something in the mind. You go, oh wow, I'm all I literally need to do is find a contract of sale.
My international clients especially, it's step one.
Yeah.
If we can't work out what you can spend or how quickly you can spend it, we need to work out a plan for you for a rental property, a long-term rental property, etc. Because we don't just buy them the home. We help them with a plan of, are you going to go to an Airbnb? Are you going to a hotel? Are you staying with friends? To do that, you need a broker in your corner saying, you can spend X with this job, this payslip, this document. Get that sorted. I'll let you borrow the money. We'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
But if they don't have that plan, they come over, especially people that move, we'll get an Airbnb and in a month's time we'll buy. But then they find out, well, actually you're someone that needs to do 6 months of this and that because of your position. We actually need a better plan because you can't rent an Airbnb for 6 months. It's going to cost you a fortune.
Yeah.
Other people, they come to me and they say, oh, look, we want to rent for a year and then we want to buy because we don't want to be out of the market and all those sort of things. I say, why do you want to rent for a year? Oh, because we've been told if we go to a bank, we need a year's worth of pay slips before we borrow any money. I'll ask them a few other questions and then quite quickly I've worked enough in the field that I can go, actually, you need to talk to a broker.
Yeah.
And I know there's brokers out there that will get you a loan basically as soon as you're off the plane. You've already got a job, you've got good deposit, you've got that. They'll just have some conditions about pay slips and stuff. If you can fill all that criteria, we can go house shopping this month.
It is about the education piece. And I think it's just it's an old tale to go, if you're on probation, you need 6 months. No bank cares about probation anymore.
No, and probation gets thrown out of contracts easy. I've talked with people that have been poached, as in companies have rung them up and said, we want you to fly to Australia and work for us. We'll pay for you to move and everything. Yeah. Oh, by the way, you've got 9 months probation. I've said to them, if you want me, go back and just say, hey, I want to buy a house as soon as I've got there. The bank doesn't like probation. Can you reduce it to 1 month? And 9 times out of 10, the employer doesn't care. They just take it straight out.
But even banks don't care about the probation in there. Yeah. So if they've been in the same history or even if they haven't, we've got banks that will do that as well.
Yeah.
But it's all about the education piece, and that's what we tried, to do on a mortgage thing, and you as a buyer's advocate as well.
Yep.
I think it's so important. It's so important.
Oh, and it is. And it's about the education of what's out there, what's available, what can be done, what possibly can't be done. And then for my clients, it's not just a yes or no. It's here's a solution. It might not be the solution they want to hear. It might not be the plan they want.
Yeah.
But at least this is what is possible and this is what you have to do if you want to change this plan.
Yeah.
So it's not a flat out, no, you can't buy or yes, you can buy. It's this is where you're at right now and this is the path we can go, or this is what you need to do to go a different path.
Yeah. Same for first-home buyers. The amount of conversation to go, it's not something that we can do now, but it's not a no.
Yep.
It's just you just need a couple of months more savings, or you hold on to those savings for a bit longer if you're not renting through a real estate agent or something.
Yep.
So it's always not a no. It's just a wait until the right time.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy a sunny coast for the day.
Oh, I love being up here. It's always good to get out and have a look around.
Apart from the weather.
Yeah, well, we can pretend it's sunny today.
But yeah, no, anyone that's sort of wanting to know a bit more, reach out to myself and I'll pass Darren's details on. Sounds like you're doing an amazing job and educating clients, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing.
Yeah, and like I say, thanks for having me on today. I'm really happy if I can talk to someone and do nothing more than educate them.
Yeah.
If they become one of our clients, that's great. But even if I can just give them the education they need so they can go out and work out what they need to do to buy, that's made my day.
That's awesome. So good to hear. Love it. All right. Well, see you guys soon.
So hopefully that helped you understand a little bit more about what I do. My true passion is helping people move. Why? Because I found it's quite a stressful process myself. I've got a huge amount of real estate knowledge. I've been investing in property since a very young age. I've bought and sold a lot of property. And I found the move a little bit challenging when I moved with my own family. So if I can spend my days now helping people educate themselves, make the move easier, provide all this information we put out there so that the move becomes less stressful, and then help them buy their property or rent a property when they get here so they can start again for their family, I get great satisfaction out of that because it was something I didn't have when I moved. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach out through our website, keenonproperty.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're everywhere, or feel free to reach out through the podcast channels. Keep in touch and keep an ear out for our next show on Keen on Australia. We've got a lot more people to interview and a lot more exciting shows coming up. If there's something you'd like to know more about in the move, let us know. You ask the questions, we find you the answers.